Good evening, I'm Leela and welcome to the DebtCircle Sundown brief for the 19th of June 2026. Let's begin with the highest yielding listed corporate bond transactions traded today. The highest yield among listed corporate bonds was from Unifin's Capital India Limited, which traded at a yield of 17.25% with a trade value of 30.00 lakh rupees. Akara Capital Advisors Private Limited traded at a yield of 15.90% with a trade value of 100.00 lakh rupees. Regency FinCorp Limited traded at a yield of 15.50% with a trade value of 10.00 lakh rupees. Another Akara Capital Advisors Private Limited bond traded at a yield of 15.10% with a trade value of 1.90 lakh rupees. Kirtana FinServe Limited traded at a yield of 15.00% with a trade value of 0.04 lakh rupees. Moving to unlisted corporate bonds. Infi Fresh Foods Limited traded at a yield of 17.00% with a trade value of 250.00 lakh rupees. Reliance Capital Limited traded at a yield of 16.00% with a trade value of 200.00 lakh rupees. Advanced Performance Materials Private Limited traded at a yield of 15.71% with a trade value of 168.00 lakh rupees. Vadraj Cement Limited traded at a yield of 14.515% with a trade value of 25.00 lakh rupees. Steamhouse India Limited traded at a yield of 14.23% with a trade value of 2000.00 lakh rupees. Now, let's look at mutual fund debt market activity. Gross purchases stood at 17,277.89 crore rupees. Gross sales stood at 25,396.55 crore rupees. Net investment was negative 8,118.66 crore rupees. Month-to-date net investment for June stands at negative 83,077.230 crore rupees. Turning to foreign portfolio investor activity in the debt market. Under the general limit category, gross purchases were 968.52 crore rupees. Under the voluntary retention route or VRR, gross purchases were 193.78 crore rupees. Under the fully accessible route or FAR, gross purchases were 971.51 crore rupees. Gross sales under the general limit category was 705.14 crore rupees. Gross sales under VRR was 6.24 crore rupees. Gross sales under FAR were 1,174.83 crore rupees. Net investment under the general limit category was 263.38 crore rupees. Net investment under VRR was 187.54 crore rupees. Net investment under FAR was negative 203.32 crore rupees. Month-to-date net investment for June under the general limit category stands at 8,103.83 crore rupees. Under VRR, month-to-date net investment stands at 4,028.32 crore rupees. Under FAR, month-to-date net investment stands at 18,780.46 crore rupees. Year-to-date 2026 net investment under the general limit category stands at 4,709 crore rupees. Under VRR, year-to-date net investment stands at 1,076 crore rupees. Under FAR, year-to-date net investment stands at 33,393 crore rupees. Now, the money market rates. The call rate closed at 5.36%. The tri-party repo rate stood at 5.20%. The basket repo rate stood at 5.23%. The special repo rate stood at 5.13%. Moving to India government bond yields. The 1-year yield stood at 5.74%. The 3-year yield stood at 6.26%. The 5-year yield stood at 6.48%. The 7-year yield stood at 6.74%. The 9-year yield stood at 6.87%. The 10-year yield stood at 6.84%. The 15-year yield stood at 7.13%. The 30-year yield stood at 7.48%. Now, Treasury bill yields and auction cutoffs. The 91-day Treasury bill yield stood at 5.26%. The 182-day Treasury bill yield stood at 5.50%. The 364-day Treasury bill yield stood at 5.79%. Let's review the liquidity indicators. Net liquidity injected stood at negative 1,91,642 crore rupees. The Standing Deposit Facility, or SDF, stood at 1,91,670 crore rupees. The Marginal Standing Facility, or MSF, stood at 28 crore rupees. Moving to MIBOR OIS rates. The 1-year rate stood at 5.90%. The 2-year rate stood at 6.06%. The 3-year rate stood at 6.18%. The 5-year rate stood at 6.34%. Now, modified MIFOR rates. The 2-year rate stood at 6.95%. The 3-year rate stood at 6.95%. The 4-year rate stood at 0.00%. The 5-year rate stood at 7.18%. Turning to currencies. The US dollar to Indian rupee rate closed at 94.38 compared with 94.42 previously. The euro to Indian rupee rate closed at 108.18, unchanged from 108.18 previously. The British pound to Indian rupee rate closed at 124.86 compared with 124.84 previously. The Japanese yen to Indian rupee rate closed at 0.59, unchanged from 0.59 previously. The Chinese yuan to Indian rupee rate closed at 13.95 compared with 13.96 previously. Now, commodities and market indices. 24-karat gold, 99.9 purity, closed at 14,586 rupees per 10 grams compared with 14,951 rupees previously. Silver closed at 2,500 rupees per 10 grams compared with 2,600 rupees previously. Crude oil closed at $79.43 per barrel, compared with 78.68 previously. The Sensex closed at 76,665.23, compared with 77,409.98 previously. The Nifty closed at 23,989.10, compared with 24,168.00 previously. Finally, let's review India's primary corporate bond issuances. Nuvama Wealth Finance Limited issued 100 crore rupees of bonds with a tenure of 30 months and a coupon of 9.22%. The issue was rated AA by ICRA Limited. Aadhar Housing Finance Limited issued 250 crore rupees of bonds with a tenure of 38 months and a AA rating from ICRA Limited. Neo Growth Credit Private Limited issued 30 crore rupees of bonds with a tenure of 19 months and a coupon of 12.15%. The issue was rated BBB by ICRA Limited. Mahindra & Mahindra Financial Services Limited issued 935 crore rupees of bonds with a tenure of 37 months and a coupon of 7.90%. The issue was rated AAA by CRISIL Ratings Limited and India Rating and Research Private Limited. Small Industries Development Bank of India issued 6,000 crore rupees of bonds with a tenure of 61 months and a coupon of 7.40%. The issue was rated AAA by CARE Ratings Limited and CRISIL Ratings Limited. Bajaj Finance Limited issued 1,390 crore rupees of bonds with a tenure of 28 months and a coupon of 7.07%. Cholamandalam Investment and Finance Company Limited issued 100 crore rupees of bonds with a tenure of 36 months and a coupon of 8.08%. Keevdana Finserv Limited issued 210 crore rupees of bonds with a tenure of 23 months and a coupon of 12.00%. Satin Finserv Limited issued 50 crore rupees of bonds with a tenure of 17 months and a coupon of 11.75%. The issue was rated A- by ICRA Limited. Tata Capital Housing Finance Limited issued 2,000 crore rupees of bonds with a tenure of 49 months and a coupon of 7.79%. The issue was rated AAA by CRISIL Ratings Limited and ICRA Limited. Housing and Urban Development Corporation Limited issued 1,000 crore rupees of bonds with a tenure of 38 months and a coupon of 7.23%. The issue was rated AAA by CARE Ratings Limited, ICRA Limited, and India Rating and Research Private Limited. REC Limited issued 4,000 crore rupees of bonds with a tenure of 121 months and a coupon of 7.46%. The issue was rated AAA by CARE Ratings Limited, CRISIL Ratings Limited, ICRA Limited, and India Rating and Research Private Limited. Vistar Financial Services Private Limited issued 125 crore rupees of bonds with a tenure of 85 months and an A+ rating from CARE Ratings Limited. That concludes the DebtCircle Sundown brief for the 19th of June 2026. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay ahead, and we'll see you again tomorrow.